Introduction by J. Allison. This, I believe, offers a simple, if difficult, invitation. Write a few hundred words expressing the core principles that guide your life, your personal credo. We issue that invitation to politicians, nurses, artists, construction workers, athletes, parents, students, the famous and the unknown, everyone. All the essayists in this book have accepted the invitation. There is risk in what they did. They wrote of their most closely held convictions and then spoke them on the radio to an audience of millions, in a media climate that tends towards sound bites, pot shots, and spin. To make such an earnest, exposed statement is itself an act of bravery. We who read the dozens of essays that arrive each morning in our email recognize this act. It touches us, and it is not too much to say that we approach our work with a sense of honor. All the editors of this series know how difficult it is to write one of these essays, because we have tried it. The editors of the original series in the 1950s did too. Like most of the thousands we've received, these essays won't be on the radio, and in most cases, won't be read by anyone other than the writer. But we believe the exercise is important. The attempt alone has value. At its heart, this book is an invitation to make the attempt yourself. This, I believe, was first broadcast in 1951 with Edward R. Morrow hosting. A team of editors worked on the project for 5 years, making the series a daily radio staple and eventually a publishing phenomenon. 50 years after the original series ended, we felt the time was right to bring it back. As in the 1950s, matters of belief divide our country and the world. We find ourselves in conflict over moral standards, patriotism, family, and issues of race and faith. Yet amid the most pervasive information delivery systems in history, there is little place for the encouragement of quiet listening to the beliefs of others without rebuttal or criticism. More and more, news output is based not so much on the events of the day, but those of the moment. An hour old is old. When does the value of immediacy wear out? When we know what has happened in the last second, the last millisecond. This, I believe, heads in the other direction. It is interested not in what can be learned in a moment, but over a lifetime. When this, I believe, essays appear in the midst of the NPR news programs, All Things Considered and Morning Edition, time changes a little. The din of the daily is left behind, and the moment is noted not for its clamor, but for its calm. In our revival of this, I believe, we have been guided by the original team. We make the same requests of essayists that they did. Frame your beliefs in positive terms. Refrain from dwelling on what you do not believe. Avoid restatement of doctrine. Focus on the personal, the I of the title, not the subtly sermonizing we. While you may hold many beliefs, write mainly of one. Aim for truth without accusation, patriotism without political cant, and faith beyond religious dogma. We have found that some writers do best to tell a story, perhaps of a moment a belief was forged, or tested, or confirmed. Others peel the onion of what they were taught to believe, what they think they should believe, and even what they always believed they would believe. In this volume, you will find essays from 50 years ago intermingled with essays of today. The themes are not very different. People still search for meaning, want to help others try to overcome fear, wonder at death and birth. While we may now be more casual in style, this exercise often summons a formal declaration, a statement considered enough to stand up for. A word on process. One distinction between our series in the 1950s is our public call for essays. We accept submissions over the internet via our website, www.thisibelieve.org. As of this writing, more than 22,000 essays have been read by our reviewing team in Woods Hole, Massachusetts. We flag essays that stand out for their expressiveness, their perspective, or simply because we remember them. All essayists, those we invite to write for our series and those whose essays are chosen from internet submissions, are edited for radio, sometimes a little, sometimes a lot, until everyone is content. Writers usually record in studios near where they live, while I coach their readings over the phone. Finally, our photographer visits them to take their portraits. In reading the submissions, we have noticed trends. Many offer testimony to such principles as the Golden Rule, living in the moment, the importance of love and giving. Others write of family, God, and country. Deep lessons are learned in proximity to illness and death, when the value of life is felt more keenly. Alzheimer's, for example, often occasions an examination of the fundamental nature of personality and belief. It may also be worth noting some common rhetorical pitfalls: self-righteousness, prescribing for others, advertisement for self, cliché, and disguised attack. Most essayists make earnest attempts to determine what they believe for themselves. In our online submission form, we have a space for reflections on the process. Writers express gratitude for the opportunity, the nudge, to take on the challenge. They generally don't find it easy. One said it was like packing for a long trip using an overnight bag. Some tell of sharing their essays with others, broadcasting them in their own circles. This, I believe, essays have been read at weddings and funerals, given and asked for on birthdays. Colleges and schools around the country have undertaken the project. One school in Vermont packed the local public library for a night of essay readings. Once they assigned students to the task of writing an essay, teachers report they feel obligated to complete one too. For those who may be interested, the appendices of this book contain a history of the series guidelines for essayists, and resources for writers, teachers, places of worship, and community groups. An online archive of every submitted essay can be found at our website. Beliefs are choices. No one has authority over your personal beliefs. Your beliefs are in jeopardy only when you don't know what they are. Understanding your own beliefs and those of others comes through focused thought and discussion. Most public dialogue is now propelled by media outlets owned by a dwindling number of multinational corporations. A healthy democracy needs ways to bypass gatekeepers so we can communicate with one another directly, and perhaps even find common ground. This, I believe, is an exercise in philosophical self-examination in a public context. It rises from the grassroots, where people can begin to listen to each other, one at a time. My own This I Believe essay begins, I believe in listening. This is no surprise, coming from one who works in radio and public radio at that. At the station in my hometown, it's our motto, the first word ever spoken on the air when we sign on. Listen. If there is a testament to a belief in listening, it will be found in these essays. Take a moment then to consider the beliefs that guide the life of others, beliefs that may confirm your own, or challenge them, or even open your mind to something new. When you are done, think about this. What would you say?